What I believe is common sense, I'm learning it's not that common. Running a political campaign is a grueling process. You walk mile after mile knocking doors, you have events, you got candidate forums, and social media comments from those that like you and those that don't like you. Joseph Shepard just finished his campaign process, and the sacrifice and hard work paid off in his favor as he will soon be seated to serve a 4-year term on the Wichita City Council. Joseph joined me for a sit-down to talk about his campaign, what he learned from listening to people, and what he hopes to accomplish in his time in elected office. We also talked about broader issues concerning our community and how he is walking into office during an incredibly pivotal time for the city of Wichita. We covered a lot. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Wichita City Councilman-elect Joseph Shepard. Joseph Shepard, man, thank you for coming in here, bud. I know this is an ultra busy time for you, just the planning, the prep for what you have coming, and then the holiday season. So I just really appreciate you making time to come in and chat and hang out. So I want to tell you a story. So 2022, I decide I'm going to run for office and have an election and a campaign, which we'll talk about your campaign and all that went on in your campaign, how busy that was. But all throughout this campaign, I kept trying to get a hold of Councilmember Brandon Johnson for obvious reasons. Yeah. Part of his district, a good portion of his district is inside of my district.
That's right.
A lot of things I wanted to work on with him. He was supporting my opponent, Commissioner Cruz, as were you.
Yep.
And I told him in emails and text, I said, it's cool, man. Like, you have a relationship, you trust her. I'm good. If I win, we have to work together. So I just want to chat. And finally, he's like, just come over to the office.
Yeah.
We had about an hour and a half conversation. And I told him, I said, listen, man, if I win, you will be my first phone call because I need you to know I'm serious about wanting to work with you. And that night in November, election was called, said a few things to the crowd that was there, walked out on the patio of the place we were hosting my watch party and called Councilmember Johnson.
Right on.
The first person I called. He was on vacation with his family in Hawaii, actually. But he texted me and said, hey, congrats. Let's get together in the next couple of weeks. And he and I have, although we play on different political teams, he and I have had a really, really good working relationship, particularly at 29th and Grove and the water contamination issues there. I have really enjoyed working with Councilmember Johnson. So I say that to say that you're taking his place.
I am.
And I hope that you and I have the same type of working relationship that Brandon and I have had. I think it's important for the shared constituencies and the community at large. So
absolutely.
I sure hope we can work together in the same capacity.
No, we will. We will. And I remember that journey. And I remember meeting with you in the coffee shop.
Remember that? Yeah.
And saying, you know what, I'm supporting your opponent. But I remember the commitment you made of, regardless of the outcome, I want to serve the community. I want to work with you. And I tell people all the time, you won me over. When you were elected, and you won me over, not necessarily because you vote the way that I would vote all the time, but there's a level of genuineness and sincerity and showing up and listening and engaging. And I wish we had more public servants like that. So
that means a lot to me because, and I think you know this because you've been around the political scene for a while, but on local government in particular, you have two different tensions. 100%. You have the tension of running the organization, and local government is about services. We provide services to people. So you have the organizational leadership, and for the county and for the city, that's 3,000 employees apiece. Big. There's a lot going on. Public safety, public works. I mean, there's just a lot. Utilities,
public
at the
health,
city, all of it.
Yeah.
So you have to run an organization that's a large organization, and then you have the political tensions.
That's right.
And so we have to balance both, and sometimes they do this. But this is where services happen.
Yep.
Where the services that really impact people's lives happen on the local level. So I appreciate that, man. That means a lot to hear that from you.
I'm excited to work with you. Yeah. I'm excited to learn from you. You're one of the people who I'm like, listen, I can learn a lot. And I have a short list of folks who I'm really excited to learn from. You are certainly one of those people on that list. I just think, again, the way that you model leadership and leaning in, I watch even on social media as folks kind of, naturally the court of public opinion does what it does. And you don't shy away. You comment back. And I've kind of taken some of that.
I've noticed that about you. Because the traditional political advice is that don't engage people on social media. And man, that's just not we work for them.
That's right.
And I have learned that in social media and comments in particular, when you engage people, you're educating other people that are watching what's going, making people more aware. And it's an opportunity to bring more awareness to a situation, an item, or your opinion, and to elicit feedback from people. I think it's a great tool. I know it's not the traditional political advice, but I think you and I both like to engage people 100%. On social media.
And what that does is it changes the perception that local government or government in general doesn't care about what people think. But when you, for example, there was a young lady who was very upset about a recent vote that the city council took. I made a TikTok video and she gave me the business. I responded and I proceeded to DM her, gave her my personal cell phone number, and she was very shocked about that. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, she still had some significant concerns about this particular vote. Maybe even some of the things that I had shared, but she was still very happy that we were able to engage and that she now has my personal cell phone number. That only in Wichita, Kansas, I'd like to say that can happen with your local elected officials, where you have our personal cell phone number. You see us out at a coffee shop. You can come and engage with us. We want you to, most of us want you to engage with us and meet and talk to us about the issues on your hearts and minds. That's what public service is.
That is exactly, and that's local government. And you're making decisions and you're electing and hiring people to lead your local community. And these are your neighbors, your friends, your family members. I just want to encourage you, man, don't lose that.
Thank you.
There will be a time, and it will happen shortly, when you're just a few months in office, when you're like, man, this is for the birds. Like I don't have the energy. I don't have the bandwidth. Social media can be a crazy vacuum. And that ecosystem is wild. I just want to encourage you, don't lose that, man.
Thank you.
Don't lose that, because the people, they deserve. They deserve to have local electeds that represent them, that are willing to engage them on the good, bad, the ugly, agreement, disagreement. People deserve that. So.
Absolutely. That's what we ran on, and
that's it.
And we're going to hold to it for the 4 years.
We'll talk a little bit about social media and the campaign and just what that's like. I do want to know, but before we get there, you are following in the footsteps of someone that you obviously admire greatly, Councilmember Brandon Johnson. Yeah. I think that he has done a lot in your upbringing in this community and helped shape you in many ways. And it was interesting watching some of your campaign stuff and just watching the history of Councilmember Johnson and your relationship with him. So what's it like to follow in his footsteps and to take a seat that he's been in for 8 years?
It's surreal. It's humbling. Recently, we had the opening of the Carl Brewer Community Center, and that was a big accomplishment for Council Member Brandon Johnson. And, the election happened November 4th. We opened the Carl Brewer Community Center maybe in a month and a half after that. And prior to that, I was kind of like, it hasn't hit me yet. And then sitting in that space, and those who know Councilmember Johnson, he's not really an emotional person, very measured. And, I saw him shed a few tears, but I also heard the stories about what a difference opening the doors of the Carl Brewer Community Center made in the lives of the people who live in that community, but the people who have been in Wichita and have seen that level of investment coming into that community. And it was in that moment I thought, oh my gosh, this is the man who I'm replacing. And I remember texting some folks saying, I'm nervous. Like, it hit me. I remember texting Councilmember Johnson after that saying, I'm nervous. And in true fashion, he called and said, you don't have anything to be nervous about. You've been ready for this. And so I think it's a matter of recognizing that Councilmember Johnson has done great things. He's been a mentor to me since I was 19.
Is that right?
I'm 32 now. Yeah. And he's invested in me and believed that I was the right person for this seat, as everyone else who voted for me, because of who I am and what I bring in this time that we're living in. And so recognizing that I can take the lessons that he has demonstrated over the past 8 years and bring what I can bring to the table and be open to learning along the way from the other great staff within City Hall, the other great leaders in the community, and doing my very best to just stay true to our community and our values. That's my goal.
That's good. Well, we're all shaped by our experiences. All of us are. My experience from baseball to business and ministry and now this, it shapes us, it molds us, and some ways for the better, some days for the worse.
That's right.
But we mature and we grow. There's a process called sanctification where we're all growing and being fashioned into being more, as a Christian, more Christ-like in the ways that we perceive the world and the way we interact with people. But your story is really interesting, Joseph. You've been shaped by a lot of different things. Like, what help me understand, help the public understand, like, has shaped you to get you to this moment to where now you're moving into a new season of leadership in the community? Tell me about these experiences.
Yeah, my life is complex. The story behind who Joseph Shepard is and how I came to be at 32 years old is very complex. I come from a family that my biological mom and dad were married for 16 years. They decided to end their relationship, and after that, divorce took place, obviously, and we split up. My siblings and I split up from my dad, and we became homeless for a very long time.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So I've experienced homelessness as a kid, sleeping in cars, getting washed up in McDonald's restaurants. Later, stayed in a Salvation Army and a couple other homeless shelters in Oklahoma. And then my father won custody of us. After that,
how old were you at that point?
Oh my gosh, 12? Okay. 12 years old, so old enough to remember. And went to go live with my father in Las Vegas, Nevada, who was pastoring in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Mm-hmm. He was growing a church, a congregation from worshiping in a high school gym, right? And led them into their first building, and that was transformational. But there was something about my father who also had his own journey that I knew about. You know, he wasn't always on the straight and narrow, sure. But when he became a pastor, he had this inclusive view, right, to do right by all and do harm to none. And there were times where, as most PKs would say, you give up a lot.
Yeah.
Of your family, of your father. Oh, yes. Anybody in ministry knows this. It's a sacrifice for the entire home. And I would be very frustrated with my father as a kid of like, you know, first, now I don't get a relationship with my biological mother. Now I don't get a relationship with you. My dad was a tough love kind of dad with me, and that was hard for me as well. Like, why are you pushing me to be great? I don't understand. But he would give the shirt off his back to anybody. Holidays, he wanted to serve those most vulnerable. Benevolent offerings were truly used to give back to those who were least among our congregation, who needed help paying a bill, who needed help just closing that gap for a little while longer. And that led to me really just understanding that I think life is all about how you can help other people. Wow. And, you know, my senior year in high school, my brother was arrested, and I watched him go through the criminal justice system. I was not thinking of college at all. I was like, I'm going to graduate from high school. I'm going to get a good job. My stepmother at the time, who I affectionately called my mom, saw something in me. So she pushed me in community college courses when I was in high school. So when my brother went to jail, I was like, you know what? I want to go study law. I want to be a public defender. I want to give people the most vulnerable an opportunity to get a second chance to get it right, because I felt like my brother deserved a second chance. And he did get a second chance, but he ended up serving time, as he should have, for some of the wrong paths he went down. Mm-hmm. But had it not been for my brother making that mistake, right? Had it not been for me being homeless as a kid, had it not been for me wrestling with this idea of, why is my father willing to sacrifice time with his own kids and his own family to give to others? Mm-hmm. I would have never been able to sit with, what does it mean to live a life pleasing, a life worth living, where it's not about you. It's not about you. My father would always tell me that, and it frustrated me. But that's why I lead with the servant's heart today. That's why I fight for the least among us. That's why I'm willing to sit down with people who I may disagree with, because I just genuinely believe that there is somewhere where we may be able to come together and find common ground for the common good. And I take that with me everywhere I go. And it's really because of my lived experiences. Yeah,
that's profound. I remember I did 12 years of pastoral ministry, and I remember the commitments that you have to make in that position. Yeah. The 10 o'clock calls at night where you need to go serve someone or help someone, or you have to leave a kid's event because of a ministry function or a ministry obligation, and the weight that it does have on the pastor's kids and the pastor's wife. Yep. That's why, I think PKs in particular, I think they understand the honor, particularly for the pastor's wife, that has to come. It's something I appreciate very much at the church you belong to, is you're always honoring the women that have had to sacrifice and serve. Right. Pastor Kirkendall, his wife Frankie, when she walks in the room, man, people honor her. That's right. Because they understand the sacrifice that comes in ministry as a family sacrifice. So I appreciate that. But it is interesting to hear your story. Yeah. And how that shaped you and shaped your worldview and shaped your perspective and shaped what moves your heart in this season of service. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about this campaign, Joseph. Well, now I want to back up even a step further. When did you make this decision? You've had an interest in politics because you have an interest in community.
Yep.
When was this decision made? It's like, okay, this is the step. This is to launch a campaign and try to win a seat. Was this something you decided years ago, months ago? Like, walk me through that.
Yeah. Well, those who've been following my journey, they know that this was not the first attempt to serve in an arena like this. And particularly for District 1, I'll be honest, the emergency winter shelter went into Northeast Wichita.
It did.
I served on the Humankind Ministries board at the time.
Right.
And Northeast Wichita traditionally, historically, has been Black and has lacked economic investment. And when you tell any community that we're going to put an emergency winter shelter in your backyard, I think that there's a lot of communities that would say, wait a minute, we need to talk about this. Yeah. But then you have the complexity of, first of all, you're not going to, we haven't seen economic investment at the rate as some of the other areas of our city. And now you're telling us you're going to put an emergency winter shelter in our backyard
for vulnerable people.
For vulnerable people, particularly in a place on Opportunity Drive that was created with this idea of creating opportunity. And there were a lot of people who were wondering, how does this create opportunity? So here I am, an advocate for homelessness, someone who's experienced being homeless, and serving on the board of a homeless agency that partners with the city, while also being Black, and saying, I get it. And this is a very complex issue. And so I was one of very few people who stood up in that very contentious city council meeting to say, listen, I get it. And yes, and we can't let people die on the streets. We cannot let homeless people freeze overnight. And that created a lot of conversation. That raised the heat in a lot of areas.
I remember watching that meeting.
But there were some conversations of particularly some folks who were running at the time, and some conversations that I didn't appreciate. And I made a decision that, I needed to think about it at that time. But it was solidified in October of 2024 that I was going to run when my brother was shot. That's right. Who lives here in Wichita. And there was lots of conversations about the increased violence happening in our community. And I was very upset about the violence happening, particularly surrounding young people. And midnight, got a call, and I needed to get to Wesley Hospital immediately. My brother had lost so much blood that they didn't even know if he was going to live. Man. A major artery was hit. And I think while you're sitting in that room and the chaplain is coming in and they're praying for you because the outcome isn't looking good, you got a lot of time to think about, well, what are you going to do about this? And I watched my brother intubated for 2 weeks, couldn't move, couldn't talk. And I knew that this was something I wanted to do to change the community for the better. But I also felt in that moment God was calling me to step up and not to just make a social media post about it, or not to just hold other people accountable. But how was I going to use my privilege that I've been given in this life to help other people, not just my family, but to extend the opportunities to other people as well? And so I decided, I was being called in that moment. And I talked to Brandon. I told Brandon, no, I'm good. I see what electeds go through. Yes. I'm okay. I've tried it before. It didn't work out. And it was actually over bourbon at the Monarch that I told Brandon, I want to do this. And whatever the outcome is, I want to be authentically me. And I want to run on the issues that impact everyday people, regardless of their political background. And I want to go hard. Yeah. And that's what we did.
Yeah. No, you sure did, man. That campaign was a long campaign. At one point in time, was there 5 people total in the race?
There were 5 of us. There was a little bit of everything for everybody in District 1 in that primary race.
There was, yeah. And tell me about the campaign.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy, as someone who's ran a campaign, I enjoyed the campaign. I enjoyed the forums. I enjoyed knocking on doors, hearing people, listening to people. But there's one thing that's more enjoyable than that. It's actually getting on the other side of the campaign and winning. They're 2 different pressures, 2 different experiences. But how did you experience the campaign? Did you enjoy it? And what did you hear from the people when you were listening and talking to people in the community?
So I enjoy learning. And I learned a lot about myself. Good. I learned a lot about my community. I learned a lot about where there are areas of growth in terms of even the way we think, philosophically, ideologically. And I learned that folks are just tired of the partisan gridlock, the partisan political theater.
Yep.
And they want people to just do the right thing and listen. Even if you don't agree with them, be genuine about listening and saying, how can I help? I've learned that goes a long way.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I love the learning piece and how I got to a lot of those learning pieces. I did not enjoy. I didn't like being crucified for the way that I spoke and how I articulated my words or how I dressed or not necessarily being from Wichita in the traditional sense. But as we just talked about my story, when you are moving around so much by way of being homeless or growing up in poverty, or your father's in the military, now your father's a pastor, where I didn't ask my dad to be a pastor and to choose a profession where his calling moved him around every 4 years or so. But when I had the choice to decide where I was going to plant my roots, it was Wichita. Yeah. This is my home. It's my chosen home. And I didn't like that. I didn't like how we had to unpack some of those layers and challenge myself to not respond in a way that wasn't healthy for the community. And I just thank God that I had an amazing campaign manager. I had an amazing team who, when I wanted to go there, would tell me,
when the instinct says fight.
I mean, they would remind me all the time, Ryan, like, no, wait a minute. What you said on the website was you have an earnest desire to work with people, even when you disagree. Yeah. They disagree with you. How are you living out this mission?
Well, let's stay here for a second. So it was contentious. I think most people that follow local politics saw some of the discourse, some of the factions that started to develop. Yeah. So we're on the other side of that now.
Yep.
You won. You're in the position of leadership. You've been shaped by these experiences. You're committed to civility and civil discourse. Yep. How do you heal? How does this community, District 1 in particular, how do you it's not going to happen organically. It will require leadership and intentional effort. Yep. How do you heal?
Yeah, so I think, if we're being honest with ourselves, some of that healing happens over time where we can reflect and we can laugh about some of the things that were said or done. And we can say, you know what? Water under the bridge. Yeah. Let's move forward. Yeah. And then there are times where, I'm still praying. Yeah. I'm still praying. And I can be honest about that because it's real. I mean, there have been multiple people who have reached out to me and they have tried to, orchestrate meetings with some of the folks who were in the race to say, listen, we've got to come together and we got to do this. And it's yes. And I really have to pray because when my parents called me during the campaign concerned about my safety, that hit a nerve. And that's a reality that a lot of electeds have to deal with. Your kids, I'm sure. Your wife, I'm sure.
We've had to have police protection. Yeah.
Right? And these are the real realities that I knew going in because I've had 8 years to watch Brandon go through it with Danielle and his 2 kids who affectionately I call my nieces. They call me Uncle JoJo. Yeah. But the reality is that there's a weight that comes with that. Real. It's a major burden. Yeah. Or when folks post things on social media and in the name of it's politics, grow thicker skin, we've got work to do as a community if we think we can assassinate someone's character in the name of politics or this is a game that we just play. If our society has not taught us anything in the last 5-10 years, it's that there are detrimental consequences for things that we put into the atmosphere that have long-term consequences. Well, and we've got to think twice about playing the game of politics. So I'm praying to what does it look like to heal? What does it look like to forgive?
It's good to hear that. The power of life comes from word. Yep. And it is, and what happens is when that's violated and attacks and personal attacks happen, you don't just break, it's not just an emotional issue, you break trust.
That's right.
And trust is hard to repair. Yep. But trust is, community is worthy of repair. Community is worthy of that sort of leadership. And I think that I trust that you understand that. And I trust that you're going to be the catalyst that will try to put some things back together. You don't have to be friends.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't have to hang out. You don't have to go to a coffee, have a lunch. But to know that, hey, there's bigger issues that we've got to work on together. Right. And I appreciate that you say this is going to take some time. I need to process through this. I don't want to right now. And frankly, you don't have to right now. But the moment will call you to a bigger burden of responsibility to that. But it got a little nasty, man. I remember I even texted you one time. I said, hang in there, man. Come on, you hang in there.
I'm grateful for the folks who prayed with me, prayed for me, sent affirmations because prayer is not everybody's thing. And I get that too. Not everyone has a religious or a faith tie. And I get that too. And, in the conversations that I've had so far with some of those folks where, we were just not on the same page or they were supporting another candidate.
Yeah.
There's something that happens with the heart too when you get that text message that says, listen, we weren't on the same side this go around, but now that you're here, know that I'm committed to working with you for the betterment of our community.
Absolutely.
It's like right on, there's something to be said about people who take that initial leap. And so, yes, it is going to take leadership. And that leadership does not always have to come from the person sitting in that council seat. Sometimes that leadership
Joseph.
comes from community to say, I want to sit down. I want to unpack a lot of what happened here.
It's good.
And I'm waiting. I'm waiting for some of those people to reach out too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, bud. I appreciate that answer,
Yeah,
and I appreciate that
absolutely.
approach, honestly. But I also appreciate that that, hey, there's bigger things. There's bigger fish to fry.
100%.
There's bigger things that we have to do as a community together.
People are going hungry. 29th Grove contamination continues to be an issue.
It is. Yeah,
Folks
we've made
want-
progress, but it is an issue, and that is
Yeah.
a story. There might be a day I have Brandon Johnson
You
sitting over
should.
here.
You should.
Because, man, there's some stories to be told about how all of this had to come together and the leadership that it took, but also the collaboration that it took from state legislators to Kansas Health Foundation to community leaders. I mean, it's a big lift.
Yeah.
And it's funny is when you were talking about Brandon, how cool, calm, and collected he is, and that is one cool dude, man.
Yep.
I've seen him one time though.
Yeah.
I saw him one time. I gave a little antsy.
Yeah.
I appreciate him though, and I appreciate that you're walking into that role. And you know what, man? I appreciate that. I think that you and I are going to have the same sort of working relationship.
Absolutely.
That Brandon and I have had. I've enjoyed every step of working with him and the issues that we've worked together on.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your time in office now that's coming.
Yeah.
So you get sworn in what? We're recording this December 23rd.
Okay.
So by the time this thing airs, you will be in the seat.
Yeah. January 12th at 5:30 p.m.
Come on. What's the objectives, man? Like if you were to say, let's look ahead 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not look ahead 8 years. Let's look ahead 4 years. If you were to say, in 4 years, these are the things that I had hoped to accomplish. This is the temperament in which I'd hope to lead in. This is the objectives I hope to get across the finish line. Like, what does that look like for you now walking into a role? Because I remember this day, 4 years ago for me. What's that look like for you? Help define, what are your objectives?
People trust local government more, so we increase the level of trust that's there. Local government is more proximate to the community that they're making decisions for. And ultimately, hope and help is the feeling that a lot of people feel after those 4 years. And of course, that can come in terms of economic advancement, infrastructure, stronger neighborhoods, trust, strengthening communication, innovative and creative opportunities, right? But ultimately, those are the three basic things. I want people to say, I can trust those folks up there a little bit more. That maybe it's not 100% there, but the needle has moved in the right direction. I feel that I see my elected officials on more than just the holidays, on more than just when they are running for office, but because they're genuinely invested in what in the world is going on in my neighborhood and how they can help. And because of local government's trust and because of the proximity, I now feel that I have hope and help because they've been able to take that and put it towards policies and projects that make my life better.
Yeah, good. I love that. And I love the proximity piece of it is being present.
100%.
Listen, you can sign it. You can win an election and go take that seat and you can work minimally and have a minimal performance and minimal outcomes and you just have a job and grab it for a paycheck. Or you can actually be excellent at what you do.
That's right.
And you can honor the people that put you there and honor the commitments that you made in a campaign that you would work at the level that you told people you would work at and that they could, whether they agree or disagree with every vote and every decision or every position, that they could look at you and say, I do trust that individual. I trust their integrity and I know they work on my behalf. Agree or disagree, they work on my behalf. Those are the opportunities, and I think you are well-intended, and I think you're going to hit the ground running in that regard. Talk about some concerns, like, as we look at the ecosystem that you're walking into, Wichita is in a pivotal season, man.
We are.
It's a generational season for a lot of different reasons. There are significant opportunities with significant challenges. What are the things that rise to the level of concern for you to where you're walking in and you understand this is a challenge that deserves my full attention? What are some of those things?
Well, trust is you talked about the challenges and you talked about being in a pivotal season where we as a city, I would argue even a county, we've got to make some choices.
I agree.
And they're not easy choices.
I agree.
But they are choices that are going to define where we go. And none of these choices are easy decisions, but whether those choices, making those choices are a little bit more difficult to overcome or a little bit smoother, really relies on the trust and what we are doing to get outside of our ivory tower. And that's not to say there aren't electeds who don't. There are plenty in our city who do. But we've got to do more to really build that trust and bringing people in proactively to the conversations that when policies and projects impact their life, they're not finding out on the back end that it's happening or that we've had these discussions, but they've been there from day one. And City of Wichita has done a great job this year, particularly in doing that. I love the housing ordinance and bringing our landlords in and our renters union in to say, how do we make this right for all parties involved? We've got to do more than that. I love how the City of Wichita has said, you know what, we're going to have this meeting in the in city council chambers, not just on a Tuesday, but we're going to do it on a Thursday evening. And no, it's not a council meeting. The chambers belongs to you.
Yeah.
So come in and let's have this conversation. I love the en banc meetings where
I do too, man.
259 and the county and the city of Wichita are saying, what does functional consolidation look like? How do we maximize taxpayers' dollars while still delivering quality service?
That's right.
Those are the things that we've got to focus on, and bringing the community in to build that trust. That's going to take some time, and there's some work to do there.
Yeah, a lot of communication, a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and sincerity, a lot of sincerity, and a lot of willingness to bring people into the room and actually listen. It's one thing to hear them. It's another thing to actively listen and say, listen, whether I agree or disagree, whether I understand or don't understand, your concern is a valid concern. Let me walk through this process and actively listen to you to try to understand. Listening to understand instead of listening to hear.
That's right.
And man, when you bring people into the room and you actually hear their heart and their concerns, it really is a unique moment
100%.
When that happens. I have loved the en bancs just between the city and the county, the tri-government en bancs where we bring USD 259, the largest school district in the entire state with significant challenges. 82% of these kids live under the poverty level in 259. And to say, how do we leverage these resources together? How can we help me be aware? Because the decisions I make should be tied to healthy place, healthy family, healthy community. And you can't do that in a silo away from our children and our schools.
That's right.
Help me, make me aware of your challenges, and are there ways that we can leverage our resources together? Calm care in the schools, transit in the schools. There's just ways we can work better together, but you never get to those points of action ideas unless you actually have the conversations.
That's right.
And get in the room together.
That's right. And I think that we're heading in the right direction. And I hope to be a contributor to how do we move the needle even further. Yeah. And I may not know everything, but my colleague on the bench may know more than me, and that's okay. Yeah. Right? This isn't a competition. No. We should be working together. If there's something happening in District 2 with my future colleague, Councilmember Tuttle, how can I help? And if there's something happening in my district regarding childcare, I'm going to lean on her because I know that she's done a lot of work there, right? But then there's some other unique opportunities, particularly with housing and homelessness. I should be leaning on Councilmember Ballard and Councilmember Hoheisel, who have done tremendous work. And the mayor and I have talked, and we're ready to get our hands dirty with the foster care challenge that our community is.
Boy, can you say that one more time? One more time.
The mayor and I are going to be committed to working on this foster care challenge. And we've talked. This is something that we are both passionate about, and we know that the foster care challenge impacts a lot of other things that if we don't get our hands dirty on that particular issue, it's going to be more issues that we are not ready for as a community.
I have told people, Joseph, if we just spent 5 years with a bullseye target just on the foster care system, we can reverse some trajectory that's very dangerous in this community. As you know, about 1,400 kids in Sedgwick County are in the foster care system. Only have about 650 homes, so we have a lot of out-of-county placements, a lot of movement. 70% of these kids will have a touch point with the criminal justice system. Only 45% will graduate high school. And Joseph, 1 out of 3 will end up homeless if they age out of the system within 2 years. That is a real challenge. 100%. And if you go and you talk to people in the homeless ecosystem, you talk to people at the Sedgwick County Jail right now, you talk to people that are in community corrections, you talk to people and really listen to their stories, I think the community would be alarmed to know how many of these individuals spent time in the foster care system.
Yeah. And this past weekend, I actually stumbled upon a story. Yusuf Presley, recently graduated from Wichita State, has a powerful story about living in the foster care system.
And the pipeline to prison.
Oh, my goodness. And I think everyone should go watch that video. Graduated, right? and what is possible when the community invests in somebody who has had that experience. Yusuf is an example of what can happen.
A powerful testimony. I asked him one time. He had heard that I was active in this space. I was only in office for a few months, and he reached out to me and said, "Can I come visit?" He told me about this documentary that was being created. I can't remember the number of placements he told me, man. It was a crazy number. It was 80 plus placements.
Yeah.
And I asked a simple question, and I still tell the story of the answer he gave me. And I said, "Why so many placements? Like, what was going on?" And he said, profoundly said, "Man, I knew my mom was broken, but she was still my mom,
right.
and I wanted to go home. So I would act out and think that they would be able to send me home. I knew she was broken, but she was still my mom."
That's right.
I as a college and professional athlete, I had to live with host families all across the country, and that was always an odd situation. That was perfectly normal and expected and short term.
Yeah.
It was still odd to live in somebody else's home.
Yeah.
To think you're 7, 8, 10, 12 years old, being put into somebody else's home, or woken up at 7 o'clock in the morning by strangers to say you have to leave and get your bag packed. We got to go to another home.
Yeah.
No wonder there is trauma.
Right.
No wonder there's long-term impact and effect. So
there's no stability. I mean, the
zero.
rules are changing every single home you go to.
And the data suggests it. If we can just get upstream and prevent. Now, there are times kids have to be removed from a home for their safety and precautionary reasons. We just saw an example, a horrific example in the news recently of a 4-year-old boy that was basically abused to death in his home. There are reasons why the state has to intervene and remove a child from the home for a period of time for their safety. There are other times that we can actually plan and get more upstream to prevent a child from having to enter the system to begin with by giving more resources and attention and help to the family that is in poverty and in need.
Yes.
With more supports. And I'm not talking about financial supports. I'm talking about community support.
Case management support.
There's just so many opportunities there.
Sometimes, moms or dads or guardians need help getting to and from work, so it can reduce that burden just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, hope and help.
That's it.
And these are the simple things that we can do. The county, the city,
state, the community,
state,
faith communities.
Yeah, we can all do a small part. We may not be able to do everything.
We welcome that investment of your time and your energy and your focus, and the mayor's investment into what's happening. Now, you and I have already talked a little bit about your heart for this space. And again, if we can just redirect resources and attention upstream, it will wield off the financial resources
100%.
Downstream, and it'll keep families together more. So this is something that has been inside my heart for a long time. It's gotten a hold of my soul, man. I can't turn it off because I see it.
Yeah.
I see it. There's data right now. I came across data recently that just the trauma of the foster care system, if you just look at the metric of graduation rates, high school graduation rates, did you know that a child that is homeless but with their family, either mother or father or both, they're with their family but homeless, they actually have a higher graduation rate than a child that is in foster care?
Did not know that.
And it's something to be said. Both of them are traumatic experiences. Both of them are in unstable circumstances. But if you're with your family, the data suggests that it provides more emotional well-being to get you to at least one point that we measure being high school graduation, one of many points. Yeah. It just tells you how dramatic the foster care system is on the lives of these young people and why it's worthy of a moral society and moral people. I'm not talking about government, man. I'm talking about people.
That's right.
The organizations and faith communities to step in and intervene the best that we can. Yeah. So thank you for wanting.
Of course.
You mentioned the mayor.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one of the things that you were criticized for, Joseph, was your relationship with Mayor Lily Wu and Councilmember Dalton Glasscock. Yep. Now, I know a little bit more of these stories, and I know that you guys don't agree on everything.
Thank you.
But you were criticized
big time
because of your friendship with some of these people. Walk me through that. How did you handle that, and what is the actual answer in response to that?
I'm not going to lie about who I am and who I have relationships with. And I think for too long we have sensationalized that, you're here and those other people are on the other side and they should be your enemy and you should not be friends and you should not go get drinks. And, Dalton and I worked together back in student government days. A lot of people don't know this, but we ran against each other for student body president at Wichita State.
Is that right?
Yeah, I beat him, right? I won that race, but he made it to council before me.
Let's make sure we bookmark that.
Yeah, I won that race. But one of the first things I did was I appointed Dalton to my cabinet. And so when people were talking during the race of like, well, how can we trust and know? It's like, go back and look at my history. I've always reached across the aisle and tried to work with people who don't think, look, walk, talk, act like me, because I know that that's how good policy is made. And I had good mentors in my life, Brandon being one of them at that time, who I remember came to my SGA office and said to me, you said you're thinking about this, and I would encourage you to really consider
Is that right?
finding a role for Dalton in your administration.
Really?
Because there's a faction of people who voted for this man. And if you want to make good, well-rounded policy, if you want to advocate for things that truly impact the 16,000 students at Wichita State University at that time, you might want to consider doing this.
Wow. So, there's something to be said, too, for having political capital.
Yep.
You're going to have to find your way for the initiatives that you care about to find your way to 4 votes.
Yeah.
And that sometimes means working with people that are perceived as opposition to your issue or your initiative, your resolution, trying to find some common ground to advance and make progress in these
100%.
areas. This is how politics works.
That's right.
This is how good government works.
That's right.
And you just simply, if you're making enemies everywhere you go and you don't have political capital, it's hard to progress your district.
100%.
It's hard to move things forward for the people that you were elected to represent.
Yeah.
It's not folding over. It's not it's not softening your positions on things that you care about deeply. It's not changing your ideological worldview. It's about getting in the room and working to advance issues and initiatives on behalf of the people that put you there.
Yeah, listen, Councilmember Glasscock and I, for example, are probably going to agree on things like common consumption in Delano, right? I was cheering him on. In fact, when I was making calls during the campaign, I had some folks who were like, I have a business in this district and I'm concerned. And I would literally say, can I connect you? Because I think that this is a great idea. And connected Councilmember Glasscock to those individuals who are concerned, and they were able to talk and meet and get on board. We're probably going to be on board with, for example, like today, making sure that young people have a required seat on every single district advisory board. Not that it's recommended. In fact, most council members do have a young person, but we can work together on like making sure it's required. But where you're probably going to see some spirited debate is how we craft the policy for a homeless encampment ordinance, right? Not that we won't get to a point where we can both agree that there may need to be something in place, but it's the how, it's the who, it's the why, it's the details.
So, Joseph, okay, everything you're saying, I'm going to venture to believe that the vast majority of people that are watching this conversation take place right now or listening to it would say, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, of course, you want to get on you want to get on this seat, you want to get in this position on the bench and work with the people, your colleagues, to advance. So why the dismay? Why were they trying to use that as a political talking point against you, that you have a civil relationship with the mayor and Dalton Glasscock in particular?
Yeah. I think for a very small faction of people, it was a genuine concern. I do.
Help me understand that. What was the concern?
I think the concern was that sometimes the policies that we see, and I won't limit this to just the mayor or Councilmember Glasscock, but sometimes the policies that we advocate for can feel like an attack to our mere humanity. And that having an extra vote on the council to support that is detrimental for families, detrimental for folks just simply wanting to exist and have the freedom to be. And as I've said to multiple people, I understand that. That's not who I am. And who I am is not defined by who I've been mentored by, who I have relationships with. That I am so secure in who I am and even who I'm still growing to be, that no one is going to be able to guide me to make a decision that I don't believe is innately within my moral compass or values. I just don't believe that. But I also believe that there was a large faction, a very loud, maybe even loud, small faction still, who it was just a political talking point for them to deter people from voting for me or supporting me or being willing to sit down and engage. And it's unfortunate that, there were some folks who I reached out to, and those folks had no interest, never knew me a day in their life, never even had a conversation with me, but on the basis of this is what such and such said about you, no go. Yeah. And didn't get to take the time to get to know my story. Yeah. I was knocking doors in a community during the campaign, and they had my opponent's yard sign, and I went and knocked that door, and we sat down on that person's porch, and we talked for an hour and a half, and they said to me, here's what I'm concerned about. You're taking money from developers, and I heard you have relationships with the mayor and Councilmember Glasscock. I do believe you're going to win this race, but I'm supporting your opponent simply because I don't want you there. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
So we were able to have a really good conversation. And by the end of that conversation, that person went, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So it's just indicative of how important it is for us to take the time to get to know people's stories and positions for themselves and not what people are saying on social media. And we've got to do a better job of doing that.
Well, I want to give you some encouragement. My wife gave me some encouragement when I was in my campaign and the political pressures were coming to ramp up the aggressiveness and be mean-spirited and lose the civil discourse that I had ran on that I felt like we needed in this community. And my wife, and I was really, because I wanted to win, because I wanted to be at the table to shape outcomes. And it was really a tense moment personally for me because I was battling the identity of who I was as a man and as a faithful steward of the worldview, the biblical worldview, and what that looks like for me in relationship with people.
That's right.
With the political piece. There was this tension that was developing between these two identities. And my wife said, just be you, please. Just be yourself. And if you're not enough for the people that elected you there, you should be okay with that. But be yourself. Just be you. And that freed me. It freed me in the campaign. She's wonderful. It freed me in the campaign. It freed me now in my time in office that this tension between running the organization and the politics sometimes does this, but I am going to be me. And my worldview is consistent, and the lens in which I see the world is consistent. And sometimes it frustrates people on the left, and sometimes it frustrates people on the right, but I'm going to be me.
That's right.
And I want people to be able to trust the worldview in which I make the decisions, and you'll always get my best effort, and you'll always get the integrity of the decision. So I just want to encourage you, just be faithful to you and the people that put you there.
Absolutely.
And not faithful to the political piece.
That's right.
Because I think that's really, really important.
I've been given 4 years. I'm not worried about the next 4. We will cross that road if and when we get there.
If you even want to.
But ultimately, I've been blessed with 4 years to do right by community, make good decisions, to leave the community better than I found it. And that's my focus. Like I said, when I went into it this time, I was going to do it my way. And that was ultimately I'm going to be me. I'm going to own who I am in all of my layers. I'm a complex person with identities that folks would say, should cancel each other out. Like a lot of people didn't understand. You believe in God and you go to church, you're faith-centered, and yet you believe in these policies. And I was like, I believe all of us are multifaceted, complex human beings where none of us live single issue lives. And we just need to do a better job of owning that complexity and doing a better job of mobilizing why we believe what we believe.
Let's talk about city and county. I'm the county commissioner in the 4th district. I've got 105,000 people in my district.
That's right.
And you will be the city council member in the District 1.
That's right.
And I think you have 60-some thousand people.
65,000.
And a good portion of them are also my constituents.
That's right.
We're going to work together.
Yes, we are.
That's me and you and the people that we jointly have been elected to serve. Broadly speaking, city, county, we are becoming a more urbanized county.
That's right.
Government is not expedient in its reform and pivoting to meet modern needs. There are significant challenges. There are opportunities to become more efficient and better at what we do. Are there ways that the city and county, I'm not a consolidation person where I think the city and the city of Wichita and the county need to merge into one government. That's not where my head's at. We may get there in another generation. That's not my generation. That's not my purpose. But I do think there's ways that we can work better together. Have you given much thought? You and I have kind of talked in passing about, hey, I'd love to chat with you about this, this, and this. Are you open to modernizing local government and these systems and looking at how we can functionally consolidate departments or services?
Well, we have to. And I think there's a major appetite for it.
Yes.
And I love, during the campaign, I called it shared services. And when we talked, I love, and I've been saying it now, functional consolidation. I think that explains kind of the direction that we want to go a little bit better. But transit is one way that we could do that.
Absolutely.
When we think about the amount of people who are working second shift or third shift, or for whatever reason don't have access to a vehicle or don't currently have access to their driver's license right now, I think being able to expand that transit to be regional, making sure that there are more more shifts, making sure that there are shifts in other places across the county, making sure that they're running on a consistent schedule or expanding the hours, or have access to direct drop-off sites in front of grocery stores or direct drop-off sites in front of some of our major companies. What we do is we create economic prosperity for families, especially those in poverty who are working really hard to get out of that cycle of poverty, but don't necessarily have access to the resources to do it.
Yeah.
So when we are thinking about the people, right, functional consolidation is one thing that the county and city can explore meaningfully together to say, how do we bring prosperity to everybody?
But I appreciate that on transit. I think you are spot on, more of regional transit-minded conversations. I will tell you, I'm 3 years in now. I came in with a lot of ideas, and these ideas are still moving forward. It's just very slow. You're going to learn that it's a very slow process. In business, if I don't reform and pivot and modernize, the market doesn't reward me.
That's right.
I will either stagnate or eventually go out of business. We have to reform and pivot in a lot of businesses. Government doesn't work at the same pace because people are compelled to use the service, and there's no urgency in pivoting and reforming.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see this really quickly. And there's days I feel like I'm going to spontaneously combust because I'm built to go quickly. And nothing like that. For better or worse, nothing moves as quickly in government when it comes to reform. But here's what I hope you see is the same thing I saw. None of these things will happen organically. We're not going to get someone in finance payables to say, you know what, we should consolidate parks and rec and cultural attractions. Let's just do it. None of those things happen. We have great staff at the county. You have great staff at the city with a new manager coming in, which we're all really excited to hear what his thoughts are on some of these things. But it's not going to happen organically. It will take leadership from the elected level to drive this reform, to push this reform, because we hear this from the people we represent. 90% of the people I talk to are like, that's a great idea. What's keeping you? What's holding you back? And there's a lot of political reasons, but there's also a lot of practical reasons. These are heavy lifts. So things like transit and regionalizing that conversation, things like the cultural attractions that the county has. We have the zoo.
That's right.
The largest outdoor tourist attraction in the state. We have Exploration Place with a generational project happening over there with EP2. We have Interest Bank Arena.
That's right.
Could you imagine downtown Wichita without Interest Bank Arena? Those are the three big assets that we have at the county. And all three of them are right smack dab in the city of Wichita.
That's right.
Yet we've been so siloed in how we do these things. And all I'm asking for is, there's a better way to do this, to work together on these things. So, Joseph, I'm so refreshed to hear you say, let's just have the conversation. I'm not committing to one thing or another, but let's get in the room. The community demands and deserves the conversation.
I come from a culture. I spent 5 years national nonprofit. It was a startup. So I come from a culture of, and just by way of being a preacher's kid too, right? Like you said, you gotta try some different things if you want to grow your congregation, if you want to reach a new demographic. And ultimately, 10 experiments will work. You got to try 100 to figure out which 10 are going to stick. And experimenting and allowing our city staff and our county staff to try new things, it is not a bad thing. As long as we are doing so in a wise manner, and where we are not going to burn down the county and we're not going to burn down the city.
Well, I've kind of used two litmus tests, and the litmus tests are, number one, are there if we functionally consolidated or shared more services or found a better way to do these two different functions, are there more efficiencies that can be gained?
That's right.
Are there cost savings? And is the service becoming better? And sometimes, Joseph, and I think this has to be acknowledged too, sometimes it's just better for one of the government agencies to do it on behalf of the other government agencies. The county operates EMS on behalf of 20 cities in an incorporated Sedgwick County. That way, not every city has to have their own EMS. The county operates 911 on behalf of all 20 cities. And so it's one government doing instead of multiple governments doing. I'll tell you, man, and you and I, we need to go get some coffee. One of the things that 29th and Grove water contamination exposed that you and I have got to, Councilmember Johnson and I have been working on this. 100%. This is going to get passed off to you. And I am in the room with you on this thing, man. Is what it exposed, the 40-year water contamination issue where people literally were not told that there was poison beneath their feet. Is you had the state and KDHE, Kansas Department of Health and Environment. You had the county, which has the public health department. And then you have the city, which has environmental health. 3 different organizations, none of them really talking to each other all that well, and the constituents in the middle had no idea who was doing what and why.
Yeah.
This is silly that you have 3 organizations with separate interests, separate. We can, at least on our level, there is no reason why the county has the health department and the city has environmental health.
Well, and we've learned, right, there's detrimental impacts when we are siloed doing different things and not communicating. We've got
to figure out how we put these things in at least the same stratosphere so there's communication happening. One of many examples, you have animal control, we have animal control. You have the largest fire department in the state. We have the 4th largest fire department in the state. They co-respond on 6,000 calls. Be careful, bud. That'll get you in trouble politically.
You see, I'm just smiling.
I noticed. That's good. You're really good. But these are conversations that the community expects us to have. And the way in which we have these conversations is what's most important.
That's right.
There's the way in which we do this. 100%. And it's about awareness and communicating. And again, this litmus test, is there efficiencies to be had? Are there cost savings to be had? Can we perform better service to the people that are paying for these services and their tax dollars? And so, man, I thank you that you're actually willing to have these conversations and excited to have these conversations.
Absolutely.
They won't happen organically. We'll have to force the issue on some of these things.
I'm happy to work with you on that. And I mean, it's a new day.
It is a new day.
You've named it. We've got to do things differently and doing things the way we've always done them. Wichita is just in a very different space. We're in an exciting place.
I think so, man.
But we can't always say no because we've always done it this way, or no, we tried that, X amount of years ago. And this is what it's like. It's 2025. Soon will be 2026. Our community has grown since all the time in many, many ways, and so we've got to try different things.
Well, there are things that are on the docket right now that you're going to walk right into, and it's probably not appropriate for me to ask you a whole lot of details on your personal opinion because you'll be sitting in the seat and have to build resolution around things. But you have the Wichita Forward sales tax plan, and you're going to walk into office in the middle of January, and then in March, this community. Now, you didn't vote to put this on the ballot, but you're going to walk into this. Yeah. And what comes of this in March is going to have a consequential impact on the decisions that you make and how you're going to choose to fund things moving forward, whether it's a yes vote or a no vote that prevails. It's going to impact the decisions that you make. How do you feel about this thing? Are there questions that are still unanswered in your mind, or how do you process this with this sales tax plan?
The number one concern that is on my mind, which I'm sure is on your mind too, because we share a lot of constituency base, is the aggressive nature of a sales tax and how that's going to impact not just low-income poor people, working class families. And I think we need to be thinking about that. That said, again, this is a very complex topic. Because that is a concern, and there is another concern that our community is growing, the expenses are growing, the revenue's not keeping up. So we got to do something, right? And I'm fearful of the third option, which is cuts. We can't cut our way into prosperity, and guess who hurts? The working class families, the lower income poor families will hurt tremendously. And I just hope our community does the work to educate themselves on. Sometimes you're presented options and you don't like either option, but your job is to select the option that is best for your community. And I hope we do our research.
I am not an expert on the city of Wichita's budget, so it's not appropriate for me to talk about what should or shouldn't happen in regards to cuts and how they build their budget. I'm not. I've got my hands full with the county budget. I would tell you that the regressive piece of it on the sales tax is something that has to have a conversation. We have to have a conversation about what that looks like, because we are elected to help families and to make sure that families are in positions of prosperity and not positions to where they're becoming more vulnerable. What I do like, and you know this about me, is I equally believe that the level of property taxation that has taken place in our community over the last 5 years has put a real strain on working class families and even our renter class. 40% of that are seeing increases in rent rates, those on fixed income, those that are working class families. It has been a significant challenge. So you are right. I do not foresee future city councils saying, we got to raise property taxes to meet these needs. I don't see that as an option, because I think that has actually become to a point where we're seeing diminishing returns. Not everybody agrees with me on that, but I get these calls. I see these emails. I see the data that comes to see people that have had 15, 20, 25% over the last 5 years increases in not their valuations, their property tax bills.
Yes.
And it has been rather significant. And I don't think they can contain much more.
Yeah, Ryan, I will never forget. And this has recently changed, right? My personal opinion, when the proposal came out and I saw that there was the property tax, and I had the opportunity to speak with folks, and I was like, why in the world would you all put that in there? Like, why? I'm just being honest. I was frustrated. I was like, this is not, you all are not paying attention to what our community is asking for. We just lowered the mill levy. Why are we going back and asking for another property tax break? And then I had an opportunity to go. It was early December. I went to a meeting, and it was, in Northeast Wichita, and I listened to a grandmother.
Yeah, man, it's real.
Say, I'm one paycheck away from just saying, forget it. I'm going to sleep in my car. I kid you not. Because I am being priced out of my home. Yeah. And so I am significantly concerned about our elders,
those
our
on
seniors,
fixed income.
and those who are on fixed income. And when I went back and I reflected on it, there were several people when I knocked their doors. I mean, widows who are like, I'm living on a fixed income and I don't know what I'm going to do. This is a real concern.
It is, man. And listen, invariably, I'm going to warm you up right now, man. Invariably, when this comes out, people are going to making comments. I'm going to get DMs, hundreds of them, because they don't agree with me on this position on that property tax. Listen, property taxes, this is the mechanism that we use in local government and local schools to fund local government and school services. If I was inventing this system 100 years ago, probably not been the mechanism I use, but this is what we have.
That's right.
But it has reached a level where it really is providing, in my view, diminishing returns for a lot of people that are vulnerable and working class families and those on fixed income. It is real.
It is real.
The people that I hear a lot from are not some tax zealot conservative Republicans. I'm telling you, the people I hear from are in Riverside. The people that I hear some are in Northeast Wichita. That these are progressive Democrats. That are saying, hey, listen, we have got to get creative. We have reached a point that I'm at an impasse. And it is real. And all I'm asking for people that disagree with me on this is just to acknowledge it is real.
And get proximate, because I was one of those people. I will say, and I just owned it. I was really struggling as why we wanted so much of this percentage of this sales tax to go to property tax release. And the reality is, but once you're proximate to those stories, how do you look a senior and say, figure it out? Figure it out.
I've had a lot of these moments in my time in elected office to where I walked in with one opinion, and then I learned and I listened and I started to hear about stories and anecdotes and examples and testimonies. And my opinion may not have shifted 100% one different direction, but I got more creative in how I was able to do something because I wanted to make sure that I was honoring the people who these decisions were impacting. So listen, Dalton and Lily would both tell you that up until the day they took the vote, that I was still texting and saying, hey, consider this. Please consider this. Would you make this adjustment? Please make this adjustment. The Wichita Forward folks, I was multiple times I've asked them, make this adjustment, please. This is a better plan. This is the plan.
This is the plan.
This is the plan. And and this is a city plan. It's not a county-led plan. So I have told all my colleagues at the county, I've said it publicly, I'm going to be a good partner. And I trust the people at the city of Wichita are going to do what's best for the constituents that they represent. And I'm supportive of whatever comes from this vote. And I'm excited to get in the room and work with the individuals to make sure that we are doing something, and these electeds doing something that is going to better our community. So, and now it's in the people's hands.
It's in the people's hands.
And it's incumbent on the Wichita Forward group to now explain, these are the details. This is the transparency you've been asking for. This is how this mechanism works. And I also think there's going to be an opportunity for council members to create resolution to safeguard and to put some people at ease too. So I'm really excited. I kind of got my popcorn on the side watching it. But I'm excited. I'm excited
too. And like you said, if this does pass, it will free up roughly $197 million in the CIP. Now we won't blink and it'll, 197 will come available, but that does give us an opportunity to look at how we uniquely invest. And I trust the experts in our finance department to help guide us through what that looks like in terms of, can we move certain dollars over to the GO or general operating, and what can actually be within the CIP. But ultimately, my commitment is finding that relief for families who are going to be significantly impacted. And I know Councilmember Hoheisel has been a major champion from the bench on that. I'm going to be supportive of working with him and finding that relief and making sure that, again, our families in our city are not feeling the burden of this.
We do. And this, I think this is a point, and then I want to move on to the last point because I want to honor your time, man. You've been so gracious with your time. Thank you. Because I know you're busy. We do things for those that are most vulnerable in our community to safeguard them. And we have SNAP. We have housing vouchers in many regards. SNAP covers those that are 150% poverty level. Mm-hmm. So we do have, and we have Medicaid. So we do have some things for those that are most vulnerable in our community, and that's needed, very needed, to protect the people that are most vulnerable. Where I see the people that are struggling the most are those that are the working class families that are having a hard time, and there is no support. There is no help for that. So that's why this property tax relief in that plan does make sense. I would have actually advocated for a little bit more and make some more adjustments.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that.
I would have, but again, it's not my plan. Yeah. But honestly, man, I just think that this is an opportunity for the community to have a real conversation.
That's right.
It's a real conversation. Agree or disagree, I'm hopeful for the conversation.
That's right.
Okay, Joseph, last thing. Man, there's so much. There's things. We'll do this again.
Absolutely.
We might do like a 1-year checkup.
Let's do it.
And we'll talk through it.
Yeah.
You and I are going to talk
have more gray hair then or something.
Well, you should see my pictures, man. Yeah, I have not, office has not been well on my aesthetic. There's so much I would want. I would love to have a real conversation about things like race in America, race in the city of Wichita, because you and I have had conversations about these things. DEI, man, and conversations like that. And you and I can go round and round about these conversations and in a way that I think is productive and to talk. We don't have time for those kind of conversations. But I just want you to know, man, anytime you and I have had conversations, be it over coffee or in passing, I have really, really enjoyed your perspective.
Same.
You and I don't agree on all things, but you know what we do agree on? There's a civility in the relationship and the approach, and I'm going to always listen to learn from you. And you will have a committed partner at the county from me that is going to sit down and work on things that impact the people that we are called to represent and elected to represent. So last question, man. So you're walking into this space. Mm-hmm. How's your heart?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I remember telling Lily this, man, because some people love Lily Wu. Some people don't like Lily Wu right now. She's the mayor of Wichita, and that just comes with the territory. Yep. Few people can deny that she works her tail off, man. She 100%. Is at anything and everything. Yeah. She is there. I remember about 6 months in, because we meet on a monthly basis, and I remember saying, hey, I'm going to give you some advice. Take it or leave it, but I think you're going to run yourself dry, man. Yep. I was like, why don't you take Sundays off? And she's not married and she has no kids. She's got a great dog. That's who she takes care of. But she goes, I'm in this season. I can go this hard because of the season of my life. And I said, I get it. I totally get it. But you've got to be able to Sabbath and cease and rest. And I was like, please take Sundays. Like I can, and she hasn't. She keeps going and she works hard. I want to tell you, too, because I think you're in a similar season of your life where you have bandwidth and capacity.
I do.
And that's why you ran. Right. And I think your constituents will see that in you as well. But your heart, over time, we are built for Sabbath. We are built to have a time where we shut down a little bit, to recalibrate. You can't lead well if you're not healthy.
That's right.
Walking into this role, is that something you're thinking about, like your heart and where you're at and what it looks like to balance the There is no work-life balance. There is none. It doesn't exist. Yeah. But how are you going to guard your heart?
Yep. Ironically, I've been thinking about this over the last month. And like I said, none of us live single-issue lives. So I am a council member, and I'm more than that. And I want to make sure that I am finding things that bring me joy. I think naturally I will find joy in the work. I think our mayor finds joy in the work that she's doing. And I think a lot of it will be natural, very similarly to her.
It's like ministry for me sometimes, man. Right? It really feels like ministry. Yeah.
And the reality is, my heart is in a really good position right now because of the opportunity to make other people's lives better. And that's what a privilege it is to be tired, because you've been given the opportunity to make other people's lives better. That being said, I believe rest is resistance, and I believe you cannot drink or pour from an empty cup. And so making sure that I'm taking the time to just lay on the couch to watch that, stupid TV show.
Sure, man.
And saying no.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no, I won't be able to make it. And that's a hard thing for me, Ryan.
Saying
no
totally.
is a hard thing for me. But I'm learning, thankfully, because the most proximate people in my life who I love, who I want to make sure is there 4 years from now, are saying like, this is not going to be sustainable. Right?
The pace.
Right, the pace. But we also have an obligation as public servants to help the public understand that we are people too. Yes, we signed up to serve. And that doesn't mean we get to run ourselves dry. Yeah. And that the mental and emotional exhaustion just becomes the new norm for us. Yeah. And I've been able to learn from previous electeds who have taught me that and who would be very strong advocates for that. Former Commissioner Cruz would be one.
She and I talked about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Who would tell me, like, don't you do it to yourself. Yeah. Be willing to say no. And so I hear her in my mind. Yeah. I hear people like you in my mind. I hear people like Councilmember Johnson in my mind. Rest is resistance. Yeah. So don't be afraid to say no.
You got to be healthy to lead. But
that's right.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll have your help, so I'll be real successful.
We'll do good.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, bud.
That's good. Thank you, Ryan.